Hey everyone! Hit that subscribe button because David's story is about to show you what real courage looks like, and spoiler alert, it's not what you think. Let me take you to Phoenix, Arizona, where everything changed in one terrible night. David had been a firefighter for 15 years. Joined right out of high school at 18, loved every second of it. The adrenaline, the teamwork, the feeling of running toward danger when everyone else was running away. He was good at his job. Really good. Had commendations, awards, respect from his whole station. Being a firefighter wasn't just what he did, it was who he was. His identity. His purpose. His entire sense of self. Then came July 2022. A massive warehouse fire, middle of the night, temperatures over 100 degrees even before you added the flames. David's team responded. Standard procedure at first: get people out, contain the fire, do the job. But this fire was different. Spread too fast. Got too hot. The roof started collapsing. David's captain called for everyone to evacuate. Everyone got out. Except David's best friend on the team, Jake, was trapped under debris. David could hear him screaming. Without thinking, because that's what firefighters do, they don't think, they act, David went back in. Found Jake. Started pulling the debris off him. And then the second collapse happened. David doesn't remember much after that. Woke up in the hospital 3 days later. Broken ribs, collapsed lung, second-degree burns on his arms. Jake made it out. David saved his life. Everyone called David a hero. Gave him another commendation. His picture was in the paper. But something broke in David that night. Not his body, that healed. Something deeper. The fearlessness he'd always had, the ability to run into burning buildings without hesitation, it was gone. Replaced by terror so intense it paralyzed him. His first shift back, 3 months after the injury, they got a call. House fire. David geared up, rode in the truck, and when they arrived, he froze. Completely froze. Couldn't make his body move toward the building. Couldn't make himself go in. Had to sit in the truck while his team handled it. He tried again. And again. Same thing every time. The fear was overwhelming, irrational, impossible to push through. He started having panic attacks just putting on his gear. Nightmares every night, trapped under debris, flames everywhere, can't breathe, can't escape. He knew what this was. PTSD. Occupational hazard for first responders. But knowing what it was didn't make it better. Didn't give him back his courage. By January 2023, David had to accept reality. He couldn't do the job anymore. The thing that had defined him for 15 years, gone. He took early retirement on medical grounds. His friends at the station were supportive, understanding. But David felt like a failure. Like he'd lost some essential part of himself. He was only 33. What was he supposed to do with the rest of his life? Who was he if he wasn't a firefighter? He moved into a small house on the outskirts of Phoenix. Cheap rent, quiet neighborhood, nothing to do. He tried to figure out what came next. Maybe security work? But the idea of any kind of emergency response made his chest tight with anxiety. Maybe construction. But his hands shook now sometimes, after effect of the trauma. He felt useless. Broken. Like a shell of who he used to be. April, Phoenix heat was already brutal. David was barely leaving his house. Blinds drawn, AC running constantly, just existing in his dark living room watching TV he didn't really see. His therapist from the department was worried. His family was worried. But David couldn't seem to care. What was the point? The only thing he'd ever been good at, he couldn't do anymore. One evening, he heard scratching at his front door. Figured it was wind, ignored it. But it kept happening. Finally, he dragged himself up to check. Opened the door, and this tiny kitten practically fell into his house. Orange tabby, maybe 6 weeks old, panting from the heat. Someone had apparently dumped it. This happened in Phoenix a lot, people abandoning animals in the desert heat. This kitten was hours away from heat stroke, maybe minutes. Its eyes were barely open. David's training kicked in before his brain could stop him. He grabbed the kitten, ran to the kitchen, got it water, not too much, had to be careful with dehydrated animals. Wet a towel with cool water, wrapped the kitten in it. Called an emergency vet, described the situation. They talked him through the next steps. Get the kitten's temperature down slowly. Small amounts of water. Watch for seizures. He spent the next 6 hours sitting on his kitchen floor with this dying kitten, doing everything the vet said, focused entirely on keeping this tiny creature alive. The kitten survived. David named him Phoenix, seemed appropriate. Took him to the vet next day, underweight, dehydrated, but going to make it. David bought supplies, set everything up, and suddenly had a reason to get up in the morning. Had to feed Phoenix every 4 hours at first. Had to monitor his health. Had to make sure he was safe and comfortable and thriving. And for the first time since the fire, David felt useful again. Needed. Like he had a purpose. Phoenix grew fast, like kittens do. Went from fragile to fearless in a matter of weeks. Would climb everything, jump from unreasonable heights, attack David's hands like they were mortal enemies. Had absolutely no sense of danger. And David, who couldn't handle his own fear, found himself protecting this fearless kitten from himself. Dude, you can't jump off the bookshelf. You're going to hurt yourself. It was like being responsible for a tiny, furry daredevil. Here's where it gets interesting. Phoenix helped David start leaving the house again. Had to take him to vet appointments. Had to buy supplies. Had to sit on the porch because Phoenix loved watching the birds. Small steps, but steps. And gradually, the world felt less threatening. He started talking to neighbors. One of them, an older woman named Mrs. Rodriguez, mentioned she was a retired fire chief. They started having coffee. Talking about the job, about PTSD, about life after the fire service. Mrs. Rodriguez suggested something that had never occurred to David: fire safety education. Schools, community centers, teaching kids about fire prevention. Still using his knowledge, still making a difference, but no burning buildings. No immediate danger. Just teaching. David thought about it. Could he do that? Phoenix climbed onto his lap, started purring. Seemed like a vote of confidence. David started volunteering. Doing fire safety presentations at elementary schools. Bringing Phoenix sometimes. Kids loved the cat, remembered the lessons better when there was a cat involved. And David discovered he was good at this. Really good. The fear that paralyzed him in emergency situations didn't exist here. He could talk about fire safety, demonstrate equipment, answer questions, all without the panic rising. 6 months after finding Phoenix, David got offered a full-time job with the fire department doing prevention and education. Same department he'd had to leave. But different role. Using his experience to prevent fires instead of fighting them. Saving lives through education instead of rescue. It wasn't the same as being on active duty. But it mattered. It was important. It was enough. David is 35 now. Phoenix is too. They have a routine. David goes to schools, teaches kids how to stay safe. Phoenix supervises from home, knocks things off counters, does normal cat things. David still has PTSD. Still has hard days. Still has nightmares sometimes. But he's learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is doing meaningful work despite the fear. Courage is finding new ways to serve when the old ways are closed to you. Courage is accepting that you're changed and finding purpose in who you've become rather than mourning who you were. Here's what David told me that hit hard. I thought losing my ability to fight fires meant I lost everything. That I was worthless, useless, done. But Phoenix showed me I still had the instincts. Still had the training. Still had the desire to save lives. I just had to find a different way to do it. And teaching kids fire safety? I'm probably saving more lives now than I did in 15 years of active duty. Just less dramatically. But that doesn't make it less important. That's profound, right? We tie our identity so tightly to what we do that when we can't do it anymore, we think we're nothing. But we're not our job. We're not our capabilities. We're not even our courage in the face of danger. We're our values, our desire to help, our willingness to adapt and find new ways to serve. David is still a firefighter in the ways that matter. He still saves lives, still serves his community, still uses his knowledge to make people safer. He just does it differently now. So here's my question: what identity have you lost or are afraid of losing? What defines you so completely that you can't imagine who you'd be without it? And what would it take to discover that you're more than that one thing? For David, it was a dying kitten who needed saving, who reminded him that he still had purpose even if his purpose looked different now. What could remind you? Drop your story in the comments. Tell me about the identity you lost and who you became after. Or the one you're clinging to and afraid to release. These stories matter. Someone reading this is going through their own warehouse fire moment right now, thinking their useful life is over, and they need to hear that it's not. That there are new ways to matter. New ways to serve. New purposes waiting. Thanks for watching, everyone. Smash that like button if this one hit you, subscribe for more stories about reinvention and cats who save firefighters, and tonight, remember, you're more than what you do. You're why you do it. And that why can find new expressions. Until next time, courage isn't fearlessness. It's purpose despite fear. Meow for now.